Hey everyone, it's Blake. Welcome in to episode number 108 of our WWE 2022 Save and TEW 2020. This is SmackDown for March, Week 1, the fallout from No Way Out, our SmackDown branded pay-per-view, and a lot to get to, as you would expect, on this episode as we continue the march towards WrestleMania. And as I said, it's sort of SmackDown's been an interesting spot because we kind of go to the Royal Rumble, which was a dual-branded show, No Way Out, which was a SmackDown branded show, now to WrestleMania, which of course is a dual-branded show as well. So not a lot of time to kind of smoothly put everything in place for SmackDown at sort of a gradual pace. It's really just had to get things going here, and that leads to lots of storylines and lots of segments, which we will have on this edition of SmackDown. So let's jump into it. Mandy Rose gets the win on the pre-show over Dana Brooke. 43 match here. As we know, Mandy Rose aligned with Sonya Deville and Shayna Baszler, who can come onto SmackDown, but are now turning their focus to a tag team on Raw because they just defended their tag team championships against a SmackDown team, and as we've been doing, it alternates. So Mandy Rose gets a win here on the pre-show to keep her occupied for now. So now we jump into the main show, and this will be a bit of a unique start to the show because it has nothing to do with SmackDown. And the reason is we start off this edition of SmackDown with going straight to Michael Cole. And he says, I know, the WWE fans out there have seen all the buzz on social media. They've seen all the talk about a very disturbing situation at the end of Monday Night Raw. And Cole says, we can't give you any sort of, further information here on SmackDown, but we do know that Steve Austin will address WWE fans to open up next week's edition of Raw. So, what on earth has happened here, and a disturbing development on Raw after the show, at the end of the show? What happened? All we remember seeing was Edge was standing in the ring with the WWE Championship. Christian was in there with him. They were standing over Daniel Bryan. We had the Bullet Club standing on the ramp, just kind of, peering down at them. What happened after Raw went off the air? Apparently a disturbing development, and we will find out what that is to open up next week's edition of Raw. So, significant enough here to put it on SmackDown. Something went down on Raw. So, 72 to start this edition of SmackDown. Now we jump into Mick Foley. And the first thing we see here is Mick Foley in his office, and here comes a very angry Drew McIntyre. And, of course, we know why McIntyre's angry. Damian Priest officially turned on McIntyre at No Way Out, cost them the shot at the Tag Team Championships, which the Lucha Brothers retained in that four-way match at No Way Out. And so McIntyre is on a mission here, and he comes in he's just pissed off. And he demands a match with Damian Priest tonight. And Mick Foley says, you know what, Drew? I get it. I'd do the same thing if I were you. He says, if you want a match with Damian Priest, go out there and you can have a match with Damian Priest here tonight. So, a huge setup here as Mick Foley has granted Drew McIntyre a match against Damian Priest here tonight. And Drew really just nods his head and walks back out. Again, he is on a mission here after what happened to him at the hands of Damian Priest at No Way Out. Now, as Drew is walking out, someone else is angry. Here comes Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn makes his way into the office here, and he just kind of, looks at Drew and says, Drew, he just sort of gets out of the way. And so Sami comes in, and he tells Foley, Mick, I'm not happy about this. I lost my championship. I never got pinned. And Sami's just kind of going off here about how he should have never lost his title. And he's not happy about it. And Mick just says, Sami, I understand you're not happy. But he says, there's nothing I can do about it. John Cena is now the United States champion. And that is when Foley just says, but I do have something for you. And that is when we see Mick Foley turn, and he picks up a tiny, box. And it's just a very, very small box that Mick Foley has in his hand. And he says, Sami, I don't know where this came from. I don't know who it's from. But I know that I'm supposed to give it to you. And so here you go. And Sami's just like, what is going on here? What is in this box? And then Sami starts to walk away as Foley has handed Sami some sort of box here. Very tiny box. Very, very tiny. And so Sami starts to walk away. This gets an 85. So we've had two people very angry. As Sami's walking away, who comes in? Here comes Seth Rollins. So we're off to quite a start here on SmackDown. As McIntyre, has an agenda. He wants to get after Damian Priest. Sami Zayn's angry. He wants to find a way to get his United States Championship back. And then he gets some sort of box handed to him. And here comes Seth Rollins, who made his return at No Way Out, took the briefcase back from Roman Reigns, and officially announced that he would be cashing it in for a shot at the Universal Championship at WrestleMania. And so, what does Rollins do? He walks in, this gets a 79, and he has the Money in the Bank briefcase in his hands, and he officially hands it over to Mick Foley, and Foley just says, Seth, you're doing the right thing. We talked about it after No Way Out. Now's the time to go ahead and give me this briefcase, given what's happened with it, Reigns and Jimmy stealing it. So he says, this is all you needed to do. It is official. You will take on Roman Reigns at WrestleMania for the Universal Championship. And he said, next week, we will officially sign the contract to put it in writing that this match will take place and you will get your shot at the Universal Championship. And that's when Rollins just kind of looks at Mick and says, Mick, I'm doing this because I have to, but this is about way more than the Universal Championship. And so Rollins made it clear, as he said at No Way Out, not just about the title here, it's about everything else that's come along with everything that's been involving Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. So the briefcase is handed in. The match is official when they will sign the contract next week to make it officially official on SmackDown. So 79, quite a start here with a lot of people sort of interacting here with this group. So, all right, that leads into our first match of the evening. And wow, 72. You know why I'm surprised by that? Because as we keep saying, Gunther is not that over from an overness standpoint, but he brought it here in a match against Eric of the Viking Raiders, 72 for this match. So it gets a 71 in-ring performance from Gunther. So it goes 10 minutes, as you would expect. Gunther gets the win, still unbeaten here on SmackDown since making his official debut after the Royal Rumble here on the Blue brand. So 72 overall for Gunther, getting a win on SmackDown. And then we see, kind of the development here going a step further, as it is Sami Zayn who kind of walks in and he sees The Miz. And so The Miz is there with Maurice, and, they, as we know, really sort of played off Miz doing anything to try to, pin Sami Zayn at No Way Out, which, of course, Sami kicked out. He never saw that it was The Miz that tried to pin him, and then John Cena hit his finisher on The Miz to get the win, to win the title. So, Miz just says, Sami, I know, what happened at No Way Out. John Cena just, he got me. He got me and he pinned me. And he said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that it's all John Cena's fault that you lost, the United States Championship. Once again, playing up that perhaps Sami has no idea that Miz was the one that actually tried to pin him. And so Miz just says, tonight, I want you to meet me in the ring. He just says, I think we need to really, sort of clear the air, do a reset here after, losing this championship of ours. And, I think we need to meet each other in the ring and really talk about it out there. And perhaps we get John Cena out there. And so Miz just kind of going on and on about this. And so Sami's just like, oh, okay, well, Sami's got this box in his hand. And so he's like, all right, I'll meet you in the ring. Miz, I get it. We've had our issues, our back and forth, over the past couple months. I apologize. I'm sorry. But yes, we will meet in the ring and we'll talk this over and we'll get John Cena out there and we'll figure this all out. And so Sami's just, trying to be a little more upbeat here after being pissed off when he talked to Mick Foley. And so Sami, is there. He walks out with this box still in his hand. And as Sami has walked out, that is when The Miz is standing there with Maurice. And The Miz says, "What an idiot." And Miz says, "We don't have that United States Championship anymore." And that's when Miz says, "So that means I no longer have any use for Sami Zayn." And tonight, he will find that out. So, Miz saying he no longer has any use for Sami after Sami lost the United States title. And they are now set to meet in the ring later on SmackDown. 67 for this one. All right, then we get an announcement that 3 women will be joining the Money in the Bank ladder match, which will take place at WrestleMania, as we've already said. Alexa Bliss, Kairi Sane, and Deonna Purrazzo will all be in this match. And as you'll see, I'm going to go ahead and just tell you guys now, like, the balance between Raw and SmackDown, there isn't much of a balance, okay? It's a lot of SmackDown competitors, and there's, like, I think we're going to end up having a couple Raw competitors. As I said, the SmackDown women's division really got, deep in a hurry in terms of, like, the depth that we have on SmackDown. And I was just like, we have way more depth on the SmackDown women's roster than we do on Raw. Raw is kind of more, top-heavy with top stars. But the SmackDown roster is just loaded from a depth standpoint. So there's going to be a lot more SmackDown than Raw in this. And there's no really reason to try to justify what that... It is what it is. But we do know that Alexa Bliss, Kairi Sane, Deonna Purrazzo are going to join 2 other women already from SmackDown, which is going to be Charlotte Flair and Dakota Kai. So they're all 5 officially announced. We know Bayley's officially in, so that's 6. And we're still going to have 3 more competitors announced for the Money in the Bank women's match at WrestleMania. So we'll have 9 in total in this match. So we get kind of, just announcements here. All 3 of these will be joining the group, and we'll have more on that to come here on the road to WrestleMania 65 for this segment. All right, then we get Deonna Purrazzo getting the win over Mia Yim, 7:44. The Fujiwara armbar does it, 63. So actually a pretty decent match here, all things considered, because we've talked about it. Purrazzo's overness is not, she's not really that high in overness. Mia Yim is not that high in overness. But to get a 63 out of this was pretty good, actually, when you consider kind of the popularity. So 2 good workers in terms of their skills, so that really helped here, especially with Purrazzo, 63 on the in-ring performance. So that really helped in terms of what she can do. So as we said, she's officially in the Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania. All right, and then here comes Drew McIntyre. And Drew McIntyre's coming out. He's not waiting. Mick Foley officially granted him the match against Damian Priest tonight. We're going to do this thing right now. We are going to get this thing done. Drew McIntyre's not waiting around for anything. He's pissed off. He's already had to wait 5 days after No Way Out. He's coming after Damian Priest. So Drew McIntyre comes out here. We've got a referee in the ring, and McIntyre is ready to go. Like, he is just, he's pumping his hands in the air. He's ready to go. Like, bring him out. And then what happens? Well, Damian Priest's music hit. He doesn't come out. There's no Damian Priest. He's not out here. And then we see Damian Priest appear on the screen. And McIntyre is pissed. He knows what's coming here. 76 overall for this segment. So Priest appears on the screen, and he just starts laughing at Drew McIntyre. He's like, Drew, come on. You can't be this, right? Like, you didn't really think that I was going to show up tonight and fight you tonight. He's like, are you kidding me, Drew? Have you not listened to anything I've said? Did you not hear anything I said after I knocked you out at No Way Out? And he's like, this isn't about you anymore, Drew. This is about me. I'm not the sidekick. I'm not the sock anymore. He says, this is about me now. We're not doing things on your terms. We're doing things on my terms. And he says, but I'm not surprised, because once again, it's all about you, Drew. It's all about what you want. And so what I did at No Way Out is I took away something else that you wanted, just like you took away my shot at the Royal Rumble, and you eliminated me because you wanted something. It didn't care what I wanted. It was always about you. And he said, I'm not playing those games anymore. So here's what I want. I want to sit back the next several weeks, and I want to prepare. I want to prepare for a match with you. I'm not just going to walk down there tonight and fight you. I'm going to fight you when I want to fight you, and that's at WrestleMania. So you've taken away my opportunity at WrestleMania. I took away your opportunity to be a tag team champion. So now let's settle it. WrestleMania, you and me. If you want it, because that's all about what you want, Drew, you'll meet me in the ring at WrestleMania. But he says, if you think you're going to get me in that ring anytime before WrestleMania, it's not going to happen. Because now it's about what I want, and I want to sit back, and I want to prepare to beat the living hell out of you at WrestleMania, just like I did at No Way Out. So Damian Priest sort of delivering a message here that now it's about him, and he's kind of turning the tables to where it's all about what Damian Priest wants now, because as he said at No Way Out, He's tired of being about everybody else, being about The Rock when he teamed up with The Rock at No Mercy last year, being about John Cena when he teamed up with him, being about Drew McIntyre. And so now Damian Priest making it all about him. So 76 for this one, and officially lays down the gauntlet for a potential match at WrestleMania. So now we continue on. Speaking of WrestleMania and No Way Out, we get some footage here of Xavier Woods. After, the attack with Brock Lesnar and Kofi Kingston, Brock just beat down Kofi at No Way Out, won that match. Big E eventually made his way out through security guards, and Xavier Woods, was right there with him. And so we get kind of some footage here saying that, Xavier's just, he's not happy here. He's pissed off, and he wants Brock Lesnar to pay for what he's done. And so that's kind of how we leave it here, just with this video kind of looking at sort of the aftermath of what happened at No Way Out. And Xavier Woods wants Brock Lesnar to pay for what he's done to his friend Kofi Kingston. So, of course, Big E not on SmackDown. So what's that going to mean for Xavier Woods here, perhaps over the next several weeks, as we lead towards, as you guys know, an inevitable match between Brock Lesnar and Big E. So 672 overall for this one. All right, now we get the new United States champion, John Cena, making his way to the ring. Cena comes out, and Cena says, I told you guys. I said that, this was just about more than beating Sami Zayn, than beating The Miz. It was about my legacy and, adding another, championship, wanting to get back sort of to my roots here of, the championship that sort of made me, the United States title, that really sort of launched me into a new stratosphere. And Cena just says, but I know everyone remembers when I was the United States champion, I was a fighting champion. And he said, I took on all comers. And he said, right now, I'm a little bit older, right? Like I'm a little bit older than I was then. But he said, that doesn't change the fact that I'm a fighting champion. And he said, so tonight, and however long I can do this, I'm going to be a fighting champion. And so he says, I'm calling out anybody who wants to make a name for themselves. If you want to come out and step up and get a shot at this United States Championship, consider this the John Cena United States Open Challenge. So we kind of have to play off of, Kevin Owens had it going on Raw. Eventually the title got switched to SmackDown with Sami Zayn, pulling off the miracle win on the first, episode of the year on Raw. And so now John Cena is laying down the challenge for anyone to step up and want to make a name for themselves against John Cena. So the challenge officially laid down. Who's going to be the first person that challenges John Cena in this now new look, perhaps open challenge here on SmackDown? This gets an 82. It's going to be none other than Humberto Carrillo. So Humberto steps up, again, young talent here, wanting to make a name for himself. Kind of ties into what John Cena was saying in the promo. So Cena takes on Humberto, as you would expect. Cena gets the win with the STF. 73 overall for this match. So pretty good match here overall between these two. That'll no doubt help Humberto here in terms of the popularity. He's I think he's like borderline upper 30s, low 40s. So that'll help Humberto a little bit. And again, we've started using him a little bit more recently, in those trios tag team matches with Grand Metalik and Lince Dorado. It's been very kind of interesting to see his popularity go up a little bit just in terms of kind of how we've used him a little bit more. So again, it fits the profile, right, of what Cena wanted. He wanted some, younger guys to step up and really try to make a name for themselves. That happens here. Cena gets the win, and so that's kind of a match here. We did keep Humberto strong, so we wanted to see if we could get something out of that note in terms of, maybe increasing some popularity, having him in the ring with Cena a little bit. So all about making stars here, perhaps, for John Cena in this U.S. title open challenge. So 73 for this segment here. All right, so afterwards, we go to commercial, then we come back from the break. Another 73 segment. When we come back from the break, it's The Miz, who has made his way down to the ring, as we said a few minutes ago. The Miz said he wanted to get Sami Zayn in the ring. They were going to talk through this, right? And they want to get John Cena out there. They're going to figure this out. So Miz has made his way to the ring, and so John Cena's headed backstage. So Sami Zayn doesn't come out with The Miz, but we see Zayn on his way to the ring as Cena is making his way backstage. And that is when we look and we see that Sami Zayn has a little bit different of a look on his face now. His facial expression a little bit different than the last time we saw him with The Miz. There's no box in his hand, and Sami's just kind of, making his way to the ring. More of a determined type look on Sami's face. And you can almost see it as though, Sami is just, he's found something. He's figured something out here. And that is when John Cena is walking towards him, and Sami, usually just, flapping his gums at John Cena. Cena standing there with the United States Championship on his shoulder. Sami just looks over, and Cena just kind of looks at Sami. Sami looks at the title, and Cena's just standing there. And Cena just gives a nod to Sami Zayn. What? Like, Cena just nods to Sami Zayn, and Sami doesn't say a word. Sami just kind of has a determined look on his face, and he keeps walking towards the ring. So what the hell was that all about? Given everything with these two, what's going on here? So Sami makes his way to the ring here, and so Sami officially in the ring now with The Miz, and after a very strange interaction between John Cena and Sami Zayn. So we get into the ring, and The Miz says, Sami, I said that, I wanted you to come out here and we were going to figure this out. This whole United States title situation. I remember everything that happened in the Rumble. We've been through a lot. I remember what you kind of did to me there. And certainly, I'm sorry for what happened at No Way Out. John Cena got the best of me, and he pinned me, to win, to take our title away from us. And so again, Miz just says, I apologize for what I have done to you. And then, Miz just starts to continue, and then he goes, but Sami, I also want to go ahead and apologize for what I'm about. And before he can continue speaking, all of a sudden, Sami stops him and says, hang on a second, Miz. Hang on just a second. He says, because I think, I think there's something you're going to want to see. And so Sami looks over the Miz's shoulder. He looks towards the video screen. And on the video screen, there is a video that starts playing. And it is the video of The Miz smashing Sami's best friend button into a million pieces, which of course happened last month on SmackDown. We never sort of, revealed the fact that Sami had any idea about this, but there's a video that starts to play, and it is Miz, the segment we had backstage about a month ago where Miz threw Sami's best friend button down on the ground, smashed it into a bunch of pieces. Then the follow-up was Sami tried to give The Miz another button, and The Miz eventually put it back on about 2 weeks ago. And so we see the video, and Miz, face just starts to turn red because the video's playing, and again, he's starting to realize that Sami is right behind him. And so the video plays of Miz smashing this button into a million pieces, telling Maurice, that he was going to eventually get Sami. And then as the video plays, we get a follow-up kind of clip here, and it is the clip of The Miz trying to pin Sami Zayn at No Way Out, and Sami kicking out, and then, of course, the finish with John Cena pinning The Miz. And Miz is watching all this. The crowd is starting to ooh and ah a little bit, and that is when Miz turns around, and Sami Zayn is just kind of right there looking at him, and Sami, with that determined look on his face, now just turns to a big smile, and Miz realized what's happened here. He starts to put his hands up. He's like, Sami, look, and then Sami doesn't wait any longer. Sami just kicks The Miz right in the midsection, and he starts hauling off on The Miz. And so this gets to 72 overall. We've got Sami going at The Miz, gets pulled out of there by Maurice, and that is kind of your setup here for the official explosion, I guess you could say, not of the Mega Powers, but of The Miz and Sami Zayn. So it is Sami, the one who has turned on The Miz after, The Miz was setting all of this up to turn on Sami Zayn. So 72 overall for this one, and we will have much more to come, of course, on this. But eventually, yeah, there will be a nice payoff here, and I think this was kind of step one for what happened here with Sami Zayn and The Miz. So 72 overall for this segment. Then we get Paige backstage, and she thanks Kairi Sane, for stepping in, because as we saw at No Way Out, after the match, Asuka came over and sort of looked like she was about to take out Paige, which Asuka's done quite a bit here over the past couple months with her opponents. But it was Kairi Sane stepping in the middle and sort of preventing Asuka from going after Paige. So Paige backstage, she thanks Kairi Sane. She thanks her, she said, I don't know what's going on with Asuka. But, she beat me fair and square. But what happened after the match, there was no reason for that. It was not necessary for her to do that. And so Kairi Sane's just kind of, standing there. And before she can kind of go into anything, here comes Asuka. So Asuka has walked up to her, and she sort of moves Kairi Sane to the side and gets back in the face of Paige here. And Asuka just kind of that smile, like she, smiled at, Lita afterwards after Kairi Sane teamed with her at No Way Out. So Asuka just sort of smiling at Paige here. And who walks up to stand beside Paige? It is Bianca Belair. So now we've got Asuka and Kairi Sane sort of on one side. We've got Bianca Belair and Paige on the other side. And Bianca just walks up and says, is there a problem here? And so, Asuka's just kind of standing there. Once again, Asuka's just smiling at both of them. And Asuka looks at that championship over Bianca's shoulder and just continues to smile at it as, she walks away and Kairi Sane's just kind of standing there holding her hands up, basically saying sorry to Paige and Bianca Belair. So that's the next development perhaps in this whole thing here, as we know the match is going to take place. Bianca Belair is going to defend that championship against Asuka, but the dynamics continue to be very interesting here given Asuka's sort of change in mindset over these past several months. So 74 for this one. All right, then we get a match here as it is Alexa Bliss, who we announced earlier for the Women's Money in the Bank match. She gets the win over Natalya in 9:39, uses a foreign object to do it. Now, what's worth noting here, and commentary points this out, there's no Raquel Gonzalez, so she is not ringside for this match, and it's noted that, Alexa doesn't know where she is. Of course, Raquel's coming off that loss to Bianca at No Way Out, which, part of that perhaps had to do with the distraction on the outside with Alexa Bliss going at Dakota Kai, who had made her way down to the ring for that match. And so that was part of it. So 63 for this one. Speaking of Dakota Kai, after the match, in a 69, nice rating here, Dakota Kai comes in and she hits, her finisher here on Alexa Bliss after the match. So Alexa with no Raquel around, Dakota Kai makes her way down. And remember, Alexa was the one that attacked Dakota during that match between Bianca Belair and Raquel Gonzalez at No Way Out. So Alexa gets kind of the other end of the things here as Dakota comes down, hits her finisher on Bliss, and we know now officially both of these women will be in the Women's Money in the Bank match at WrestleMania. So we continue this dynamic with the former Mean Girls. They had their match at Royal Rumble. Dakota Kai got the win, but Alexa Bliss has kind of tried to turn the tide, and now Dakota turns it back in her favor a little bit here as she attacks Bliss after the match with her finisher. So that is how we leave it for now, but of course, much more to come with this particular story. So, all right, now we also get an announcement that next week, Samoa Joe goes one-on-one with the returning Shinsuke Nakamura. So, this match is officially set. We get some video promos, and of course, Joe is kind of pointing out, hey, this is probably my toughest match to date in terms of he's put everything on the line. Joe has said that the next time he loses, he will no longer wrestle. We've had that going, kind of Joe's last stand here. And so Joe just kind of pointing out, he faced off with Shinsuke Nakamura a couple months ago, but he knows that Nakamura is fresh here. And so Nakamura returns. We get kind of highlights of all his skills and everything. And so that is a match that's set up for next week. And remember, if Joe loses, he has said he will retire the next time he loses a match. So Nakamura and Joe next week here on SmackDown. 65 for this one. All right, then we get a very ominous promo here, as usual, from Bray Wyatt and Aleister Black. And we kind of just see them in a dark room here. And we just, kind of see sort of the candles around them. And these two are just kind of holding their heads down. And really, there's not much going on here to say. And it's all it is Bray Wyatt saying, we warned everyone. We said that the world was at stake in the tag team match. Unfortunately, we are not responsible for what's about to come next. And that's all we see as these two, again, dark room, candles around them, holding their heads down, and it's just Bray Wyatt speaking. He never looks up. Black never looks up, and just issuing a warning here that they are not responsible for what comes next. So, what's going to happen? Don't know. 74. All right, then we get to our main event, and it is Seth Rollins returning to action here in our main event as Rollins gets the win over Jinder Mahal. 11:53 curb stomp does it. 73 match overall. Jinder's not very over. His in-ring performance is not great, so that doesn't help the overall match quality, but it is what it is. I actually tried to make this a longer match. Unfortunately, I got the note that we were using Jinder way too much, and I mean, to only have him in a, I think I tried like a 14 or 15 minute match. That was using Jinder too much. We had to put this down to 11 or 12 minutes. So, yeah, it is what it is. We probably could have got a higher rating if we went a little longer in terms of trying to get the world-class scores, at 15 minutes or whatever the number is. So, it is what it is. But Seth returns to action here since that concussion, and so back in the ring for the first time, Rollins gets the win. And so that's noteworthy, right? But of course, we're not done here because after the match, and a great promo here from Seth, 90 overall, Seth just grabs the microphone and says, I officially handed in my Money in the Bank briefcase. And so, now I know Roman Reigns knows that at WrestleMania, we're going to stand in that ring together and there will be nothing that can stop, this now. Like, this is going to happen. And Rollins just sort of brings up that he saw the look on Roman Reigns' face at No Way Out, whenever he came back, whenever he got the briefcase, and also whenever Roman realized that there was no one around him now. And that's the look he wanted to see because it showed that Reigns is vulnerable. And just like Rollins said, it says before, everything he's done to his wife, everything he's done to him, it all comes back around at WrestleMania. When Rollins says, I'm going to take everything that you care about, the only thing that you care about, and that's the Universal Championship. So Rollins just kind of reiterating his message here. And so Seth delivers the promo, and afterwards, and it is Roman Reigns sitting at his table, and we just see Roman sitting there. But he starts to speak, and Roman starts to speak about Jimmy Uso. And he says, I tried everything with Jimmy. I sit back and I think about everything, and I tried. I thought he was the one. That's what Reigns just keeps saying. But he just wasn't. He was selfish. It was all about, Jimmy wanting to take my championship away from me. He made that very clear when he signed that contract. He didn't have to sign that contract, but he signed it anyway, and that made it clear that he wanted this right here. He wanted this Universal Championship. He wanted to be the head of the table. He wanted to sit in this chair right here. But I made sure that didn't happen. And Reigns just keeps going on about Jimmy here. And then he says, but that was always the plan. He said, I knew this was going to happen. We knew what we had to do. We knew this was what we had to do. And then Roman saying that phrase, right? The specific word there is we. We knew this was what we had to do. But he said, next week. 83 for this segment. And as Reigns looks over, he's not alone because sitting at the other side of the table is Paul Heyman. And Heyman is sitting at the table with Reigns, and Heyman says, next week, Tribal Chief. Next week. And that is how we go off the air here on SmackDown. So, next week, there is something going on apparently next week. We know there's going to be a contract officially signed for the WrestleMania match between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, but don't necessarily love the way that both Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman were saying next week. What does that mean? We will find out. But we know that Heyman, who I forgot to mention, is sitting here in a neck brace. I have to remember, Rollins hit multiple curb stomps on Paul Heyman a while back. First time we've seen Heyman in a long time now. And Heyman is officially back. He's got a neck brace on. And next week is the message we hear from these two. So, 98 segment to finish off this edition of SmackDown, and that should give us an 84 overall for the show. Pretty good show. As I said, I had to put a lot of segments in here, and there was, again, I almost feel like I wish, again, we had longer to build towards WrestleMania, but it's just like the SmackDown going from January to February to March. We only have, that 4-week cycle to build to each of those big shows, and so it's been really hard to kind of jam everything in on SmackDown. But we'll finally get a little bit of a break after WrestleMania since we have the Raw branded pay-per-view in April. So finally, things hopefully will slow down a little bit for SmackDown. But so we have to put a lot in here. Obviously we had the McIntyre Priest follow-up. We had the, sort of perhaps surprising turn of Sami Zayn on The Miz and not vice versa. And then we had kind of, the return of Paul Heyman here, up to something as usual, as he's back and clearly has something on his mind for next week. So a lot of stuff. John Cena. I mean, we were just, U.S. Open Challenge. Like there's just so much going on SmackDown, but we got a lot to sort of pump in leading into WrestleMania. So that was SmackDown for this edition, and let's see what we get to before we wrap up. All right, so that was SmackDown, and as you see here, Hiromu has invented a new move. Not surprised by that. Very innovative Hiromu. SmackDown, we get an awesome show, fantastic reviews. So, as you can probably look down here, there are some pretty noteworthy things, and one of them is right here. So, Kenny Omega's contract officially up with AEW. Now, before anyone gets their hopes up, I must tell you that he has loyalty to AEW in this mod. So, because he is loyal to AEW, Kenny is not going to sign with us. So, I just want to make that clear up front to remove any expectations. Yes, it would be great to come up with an idea to have Kenny Omega and to bring him in and do some things. That would be great. But he's not going to sign with us. So I'm going to just remove that possibility right now because he is loyal to AEW, and I can already tell you he's not going to sign with us. So that, kind of takes that out of play. So Miro is going to start a new feud with Kenny Omega in the near future. They better re-sign him before they start that feud. But I'm curious about what's going to happen there. Miro and Kenny Omega in that one. So that is noteworthy there in terms of these signings. Someone else that is available in AEW is Britt Baker. She does not have loyalty to AEW, and her husband happens to be in my company, or her boy, whatever, Adam Cole. So that is worth noting there. So we'll see what happens. But Kenny Omega is not going to sign with us. SmackDown was awesome. As you see, we've got all this stuff here. I'm going to leave these on here in terms of like these two. I don't expect to sign them, but I'm going to leave them on there nonetheless. SmackDown got a 5.80. Great. This is a note. Charlotte's contract is ending. We did re-sign, or we're trying to re-sign Charlotte. So not a surprise there on that. So that is where things stand here as we finish up. I don't know why this is still, or maybe, okay. So that was SmackDown, and again, be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Appreciate you guys as always, and check out everything else going on the channel. The AEW series is back and in full swing. Got several new episodes up on that, so you can check those out. And we will have the WCW 1998 one coming back soon. I'm working on starting a new save that will be a real world save. Also going to start that Seaverse save that I've been talking about for a while. Once we finish up the Exploring the Seaverse series, which will be pretty soon now, I think. We're getting towards the last little group here of companies that we're looking at in the Exploring the Seaverse series. So, yeah, a lot of fun stuff here to come on the channel. And so, a lot more cool stuff on the way. So, appreciate you guys as always. And on the next episode of our WWE 2022 save, we continue the road to WrestleMania, as it will be Raw. And a big way to start that edition of Raw as we tease to start SmackDown for March Week 2.